Welcome to Everybody Wants to Be a Farmer, a podcast about the hope, hardship, and fistfuls of grit it takes to win the land's trust. In this show, we'll share the story of our farm, J.C. Acre, and talk with others shaping the future of food and farming. Those who've stayed, those who've left, and those like us just trying to find their way. I believe that in one way or another, everybody wants to be a farmer.
This is an incredible guest for us to have on our first show. This is Will Harris. He's the owner of White Oak Pastures in super southern Georgia. And I believe, Will, you're a fifth generation?
I'm the fourth. My daughter's the fifth, yeah.
Okay. Fifth generation on the same property in Bluffton, Georgia. And we'll talk more about that as we get going. But Will is an inspiration to probably every regenerative farmer that you know. Will has had a huge influence on their operation and their philosophy behind what they're doing. So Will, I'd love to hear just your history for a little bit, and then hopefully we can get into defining regenerative agriculture and resilience as you define it here in a little bit. But would you just tell us a little bit about you and White Oak Pastures?
Good, Josh. Thank you. White Oak Pastures is my family farm in southwest Georgia. It's the home farm here is 3,200 acres. In addition to that, we graze about 3,000 acres of solar arrays with sheep for vegetation control. We do not own the solar arrays. That's a custom grazing kind of a deal. My great-grandfather came here in 1866, started the farm. Farmed it all his life, followed by his son, my granddad, and then followed by his son, my dad. The farm changed dramatically between my grandfather and father's operation of it. My father was born in 1920, took over the farm post-World War II, so 1946. His dad and granddad had, under their watch, it was a very tiny little but complete food chain. They raised a lot of different species of livestock and some vegetables and a little grain. They processed it here on the farm and sold it to consumers in Bluffton, Georgia, the little town I'm sitting right in the middle of right now. Every day, 6 days a week, they and their employees would get up before a day and slaughter something: a cow, a couple of hogs, 100 chickens, 5 goats, a sheep, loaded on a mule-drawn wagon, and the employee would bring it up here to town and peddle it, to drop it off at the hotel, the boarding houses, the stores. This is before refrigeration, before USDA inspection, before internal combustion engine. It was sell it or smell it, and that's the way they did it, and it was a reasonably successful operation for that era, I'm told. My dad took over the farm post-World War II. He was born in 1920, so he was 26 years old in 1946, and he really changed the farm. Under my dad's watch, it went from being a system of a lot of different animals being raised and further processed to being a monoculture of only cattle and shipping them to the Midwest for finishing. He was no longer a food chain. He occupied a space in the food chain, but it worked for him very well. He ran the farm successfully for a long time. And growing up, I never wanted to do anything except manage the farm, just like my dad, as an industrial monocultural cattle operation. I went to the university. I was born in 1954, went to the University of Georgia, graduated in 1976. And my degree was in animal science. That degree previously had been animal husbandry. And that speaks to the incredible change that was made. Husbandry and science are not the same thing. Science is very linear. Husbandry is very cyclical. But it was animal science, and I I learned it, and I came home and I learned how to farm industrially from my dad, and I ran it as an industrial monocultural cattle operation for 20 plus years. In the mid 90s, I started rethinking a lot of that, and I'd gone from being elated to have the opportunity, just very happy running the industrial operation, to not liking some things about it. And I started changing them, and 25 years later, I'm still changing things and liking it more and more.
Yeah, one of those. I told you when I was visiting White Oak Pastures that I've read your book about 4 times. Well, you've read me your book about 4 times, and I think when I told you that, you told me I probably better find a hobby.
I think they're better uses of your time.
Maybe, I don't know. One of the things that in that story that you just shared, the thing that got me the most about your reason for changing your methods was when you realized that you no longer wanted to watch your cattle drive away stacked too high on a bull hauler, that you wanted your animals to have a home from birth until they get shipped off to be on somebody's table. You wanted their home to be White Oak Pastures. You didn't want them living anywhere else, on a truck, nowhere else. And I think that's a huge shift, and that's a huge shift for a massive cattle operation to take that on. And I think that's one of the things that sparks people like me to try to pursue an alternative to what we see as the almost the only model for food and for food production. We just don't. For me, I didn't know another way until I'm 43 years old. I'm about to be 44, and until I was about 40 years old, I didn't really think about there being an alternative to the system that we have. And so it's really awesome to know that there are people like you who saw massive problem.
And it was not an overnight realization. You know, I just fairly rapidly, but somewhat gradually, became increasingly dissatisfied with the excesses of that production system. I went from thinking it was just great and just being grateful to be part of it, to just not liking it much. And then initially, animal welfare was a big part of it. Later, the land abuse became a probably even more meaningful part of it. And then now, those two aspects still are influential to me, but the impoverishment of our little rural community has become very important to me. And it's something we spend a lot of time and effort and money on.
Yeah, that was actually I'd like to talk about the community side of White Oak Pastures in a minute, but I would love for you to kind of define regenerative agriculture. I was reading a bunch of articles when McDonald's first announced that they were going to pour a ton of money into regenerative agriculture. And a lot of the comments on those articles were people asking, like, what is regenerative agriculture? Like, what does that even mean that they're going to dump all this money into? And I'd love for people in my community to hear kind of a definition of it and the resilience that comes from it from you.
Well, and I hear a lot of people with a lot of different definitions of it. And to me, it is just so simple. Regenerative agriculture is restarting the cycles of nature. When my dad and I later industrialized this farm, we made it our business to very intentionally break the cycles of nature. The cycles of nature are, to name a few, the water cycle with precipitation, the mineral cycles with rocks breaking down, the microbial cycle with microbes in the soil, fungi, bacteria, the just so many different cycles of nature. And when when my dad and I, my later I, industrialized agriculture, our generations, we made it our business to break these cycles of nature so that we can operate monocultures. Nothing growing in the cornfield but corn, nothing growing in the soybean field but soybeans. Nothing growing in my pastures but Tifton 85, Bermuda grass, and nothing but cattle out there eating it. And we used the tools that science gave us to create these very artificial monocultures. I don't believe that you can come up with a single monoculture that exists in nature. In nature, every ecosystem is the word I'm looking for. Every ecosystem exists as a lot of different species of plants and animals and microbes living in symbiotic relationships with each other and creating an abundance. That's the way it's supposed to work. The abundance, the coal and oil and natural gas that we've been living on for the last 100 years is the abundance of nature from the era of the dinosaur. And we, post-World War II, decided that we could create an abundance very differently with a monoculture. And to do that, we incorporated pesticides. Side means kill. Homicide is kill people. Insecticide is kill insects. Herbicide is kill plants, on and on. And we farmers, we monocultural farmers, became experts at knowing how to kill stuff and taking a lot of pride in it. And when I was a monocultural cattleman, every day I went to my pastures and looked for something to kill. A weed, an insect, a microbe. It goes on and on. There's always something out there that needed killing because nature abhors a monoculture. Nature wants a polyculture, many things living in symbiotic relationships. We industrial farmers want a monoculture, so there's a fight every day. And we use pesticides to win the fight. And pesticides are highly efficacious. They always work. They're incredible. But they also kill something besides the target. Without fail, when you put a pesticide out, if you do it correctly, you will destroy the pest and you will destroy some other species. It just happens that way.
Yeah. And
when that happens, nature's reaction is things are out of balance. So another pesticide is needed, which throws things out of balance. So another pesticide, and it's never ending.
Well, and then you also wind up getting like super beetles and stuff out of it that become resistant to that stuff as well, don't you?
And plants are even more than the insects.
Yeah, super weeds and super.
Yeah, and it's never ending. And the first pesticides that we used, like the first fertilizers that we used, artificial fertilizers, were products of the war effort. In World War II, tremendous amounts of money was spent to build bomb explosives factories, which could be converted into fertilizer factories. Tremendous amounts of money was spent building war chemicals, nerve gas that could be converted into agricultural pesticides, on and on. And I don't believe that the first entrepreneurial people that decided they could use those products of the war in agriculture were evil people that were intentionally selling a harmful product. But I think it evolved into that. I think that at first it was people in a very innocent way saying, we've got this excess capacity, what can we do with it? Chemical fertilizer and pesticides, wow, that works great. But at some point, brilliant people figured it out and said, we can just keep making these products that call for another product, or another one, or another one. Kind of like the pharmaceutical industry has done. Maybe kind of like that. Maybe the same people.
Yeah. So how has White Oak Pastures kind of gone from a monocrop cattle operation to a regenerative, cyclical kind of operation?
Well, I'll tell you, but I'll start out by saying that it's quite painful. I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done. I wouldn't take anything for having done it, but giving up those tools that augment production are hard to give up. I've never used cocaine or steroids, but they have an incredible positive impact in the short run, and in the long run, they're very dangerous, very damaging. So I think of these tools, these production tools, as being similar to that. When I'm sure when my dad first started using them, my dad used to tell the story that the first time he found ammonium nitrate, which is chemical nitrogen fertilizer that was made cost effective by the war effort, all the explosive plants could be converted. A fertilizer salesman, came to Bluffton, to this little town, and had a fish fry, and had a couple of 200-pound bags of ammonium nitrate, and gave every farmer there a big 10-pound or so of ammonium nitrate. And nobody knew what it was. He told them to take it home and put it on their grass and put water on it and leave it for 3 or 4 days and come back and look at it. And when my dad did that, he had never seen grass that tall, that green, that succulent, that desirable for a cattleman. And he immediately made the decision he's going to use ammonium nitrate on every acre every year. And we did. He did all his life, and I did from 1946 until early 2000s. He or I put ammonium nitrate on every acre at least once a year. And we got this incredible results in growth in our grass that we could see. But what we couldn't see is we were killing the fungi and bacteria, the microfungi in the soil that was generating the symbiotic relationship that's supposed to happen out there. And we couldn't see that we were oxidizing the carbon that was the organic matter in the soil. You couldn't see that.
Yeah.
But we were. And when I started changing this farm, the organic matter in my land was about 0.5%, 1/2 of 1%, 0.5, not 5. Today it's way over 5%, and there's no comparing that soil from 0.5 to 5 point something. I mean, it's just incredible how much better. But you couldn't see that when you were putting ammonium nitrate out every year and gradually bringing it down.
Yeah, and will you define organic matter?
Organic matter is the carbon in the soil that's been breaking down. It was plant material that's breaking down, and it becomes what it's the home of the fungi and the bacteria. It's the food for the fungi, the bacteria. It's what holds the moisture in the soil. We talk a lot about organic matter. Organic matter is not all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important, and it's measurable. So many of these things that we talk about are important, but it's just hard to measure them. But organic matter can be measured.
I think it's important for people to kind of understand that the goal is to have all of that carbon and all of those roots and all of that ecosystem below the surface, whether it looks beautiful by modern standards of what beautiful grass is supposed to look like, or a beautiful pasture is supposed to look like or not. There's beauty happening under there. And our ways of farming it have kind of robbed the land of that beauty in a lot of places.
and made it less productive in that process. Well, I'll go when I leave here. I'll go to we got a cattle herd. We have two herds of mama cows, a summer calving herd and a winter calving herd. The winter calving herd is supposed to start calving about Thanksgiving, but they have started. We got 2 or 3 calves out there, about 1,000 pregnant mama cows. So, and I'm going to check on them. And I say I'm going to check on them. I'm going out there because I want to, because they're calving and it's beautiful. And the grass is not growing now. Our pastures are warm season perennial grasses, a whole lot of different warm season perennial grasses, some forbs, mostly grasses. We don't do the Gulf of Mexico is about 80 miles down there. So we don't grow cool season perennials very well. Fescue and such doesn't grow here. But that opens the door for us to overseed all our pastures with cool season annuals. And that's quite expensive, and it's and it needs to be done in the month of October. September's too early, November's too late. So we run a 20-foot no-till grain drill over every acre. We plant nearly 3,000 acres, and it's again very expensive. And it's the only thing we do on this farm. We kind of double shift. We usually run 2 8-hour shifts 7 days a week. Because we need to get it done in that window. And we've got it planted. It's unusually dry right now. It's germinated and it's up, but it's not growing as well as I want it to. But it is what it is. If history's a guide, we'll be able to turn out on it probably January or so. But from now to January is our hay feeding season, and we're feeding hay.
And do y'all, I mean, obviously y'all are still, do y'all rotate the cattle every day still during hay feeding season, or do you keep them longer in paddocks?
Not during the hay feeding season. During the hay feeding season, we put them in one place and bring hay to them. And we never do that in the same paddock twice. It's really hard on your grass, but it's fantastic for the land. Just to be thousands of tons of rotting hay and manure and urine put there. So we always choose the newest or most infertile paddock we got to winter the herd's on and haul the hay in there. We got a hay feeder, Bale Express, that breaks the rolls up, 6 at the time, breaks it up, and puts in windrows, and it's not pretty when they are out there. It's not pretty when they come off of it, but it's set up to be beautiful.
I think, gosh, there's a lot that I want to talk to you about, but in a minute I want to talk about the community aspect of White Oak Pastures. But while we're right here in the conversation, I'd love to talk about beauty and the beauty of land. Because I grew up most of the time thinking that a beautiful pasture looked pretty well kept, pretty mowed. And since we've done this, my definition of beauty as far as our land is concerned has changed, where now I love seeing an overgrown pasture that is loaded up with bugs, and quail have returned to our property, and all sorts of stuff is happening. And if you drive by it, it just looks like we don't take care of our field. But in my mind, in my wife's mind, it's about the most beautiful thing we can see, because it seems like it's working. And I think you're talking about. I wonder if you're saying it's not pretty after the cattle have moved off of the area that you're kind of hay bombing for the winter, because people show up at your farm and they expect to see this beautiful, lush green thing that you imagine when you think about regenerative agriculture, and they show up and see that. And I don't know, maybe is that what you're doing? Because hearing you talk, I would imagine that you see that beaten down field loaded up with cow manure and rotting hay, and it gets you pretty excited about what's happening because of all of that, the beauty that's in there that you can't see yet.
Well, it's a little different. So I think a lot. I did this. I made this dramatic change after my dad was no longer. He had dementia and later died. And I think every day about what he would think about what I'm doing. And I can tell you, if he saw my pastures, he'd say, "Looks like to me the mule died and the sharecropper ran away." And I get it. I get it. He wanted that uniform, level, black, green, highly fertilized monoculture, and that's not what I got. To me, what I do is beautiful. Now, what I do is a very dense mat of a lot of different grasses and forbs, and that's beautiful. This deal where when 1,000 cows and 900 calves and 50 bulls wade out there and urinate and defecate and tromp in literally thousands of tons of hay. That's not pretty to me, but it's okay because I know what it's going to be. I know that when I see that land is going to spring into life next year. I'll probably reseed it. You don't have to, but it's quicker if you reseed it. And I'll put a lot of different annuals and some perennials in there, and all that fertility will just explode in vegetative greenness, and the cattle will do well on it, and it'll evolve. There'll be a lot of weeds that come up out there because you've given them space and sunshine and air and fertility. But every grazing, there'll be less and less and less of those unwanted weeds. And I want to do it in every paddock I have. We do one a year, one paddock, one herd per year, and we select it. If I'm lucky enough to buy or lease a new piece of land, that'll be the piece of land we do it on.
I'd love to talk about kind of the community that White Oak Pastures has revived, and on top of that, the community that y'all have been able to build down there. I didn't meet a single person down there that seemed aggravated that a group of out-of-towners was interrupting their work or invading their space. You welcomed a group of 20 of us into your office that you're sitting in right now and showed us around. It was amazing. A lot of the times, especially, in the panhandle of Texas, if you show up on the wrong property, you might get shot. And White Oak Pastures doesn't feel that way, and it's an incredible thing. And I'd love to hear you talk about how you see your community and the culture of your place affected by your farming methods and your commitment to caring for animals and humans, and maybe how you see the factory model kind of harming it more than helping it.
So the town of Bluffton and the impact that we've had on it has been unintentional, but probably the thing I'm most proud of. We mentioned the fact that the first change that I felt compelled to make was animal welfare, followed very quickly by land management, stewardship. And that was all I really was focused on. And when I started making those changes, that journey caused me to hire more and more people. When I was farming industrially, I had usually 4 full-time employees, minimum wage kinds of people that just did what I asked them to do. And today we've got about 170 employees, and payroll is $130,000-$140,000 every Friday. And that, I have bought a lot of these houses and lots and storefronts in Bluffton to house employees. all my employees are full-time, none of them are part-time employees or seasonal employees. So we wound up spending a lot of money improving Bluffton, but not for the purpose of improving Bluffton. We did it because we needed a place for our employees to eat and drink and sleep and play and live. And I think I might have told you the story, but I had a meeting with a salesman in Bluffton one day. He wanted to sell something. I didn't buy it. But when we got through with the discussion, he said, "This is a nice little town." And I can remember literally waiting for the punchline. And there wasn't one. He meant it. He thought it was a nice little town. And I, for the first time, said, this is a nice little town. And that's become very important to us. And we've continued to buy houses and lots and storefronts when they come available. And the town has become whereas most little purely agricultural towns have become ghost towns, this one is tiny. It's tiny, 150 people, something like that. But it's flourished. It's nice, and it looks good, and I'm very proud of it. And I think there's a lesson to be learned here. So this is an agricultural town. There's never been a railroad or a mill or a factory or a plant in Bluffton. Always been a farming town, farming economy. And the more dedicated rural towns were to farming, the more they've been impoverished over the last, since World War II. We'll go back to that again. But and Bluffton was equally impoverished. I mean, it was vacant lots everywhere. But now, that $130,000-$140,000 I spend every Friday for payroll stays here, and the money churns, and it's a lesson to be learned. And this was done by a farm family with limited access to capital. I mean, we were able to. We had a farm. We would borrow money. That's what we did. That's how we made these improvements. But we didn't do this with government grants. It wasn't done with out of town investments. It was just done by local people rebuilding the town. And it's nice. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's a special place, and I feel like even if you're, you'll get a lot of people that are traveling to go to the beach that stop and have no idea that White Oak Pastures is White Oak Pastures. They just found a place to park their RV, and they realize kind of what you're doing, and it becomes a staple for them in their travels, and that's a special thing. It's a really cool thing, and I think it's a beautiful example for a lot of farmers like me that just the way that y'all welcome people in and include people in what you're doing. The fact that I was free to walk anywhere I wanted as long as I shut the gate if it was shut when I got to it. That's a special thing, and you don't really get that kind of freedom on a lot of ranches or a lot of farms. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, you, in your book, kind of toward the end of your book, you mention speaking at a lot of conferences and doing a lot of regenerative agriculture events. And you mention a lot of well-meaning people talking a lot about quitting your day job and starting a regenerative farm because you can make $80,000 a year on 20 acres. And we jumped into this with that level of optimism. We'd read some books and jumped into it like this is going to be amazing financially. It's been amazing, but not financially. And I think it can be. But I've seen a lot of people that kind of come and go, even in the 4 years that we've been doing this. And I'm sure in the time that you've been doing this, you've talked to a million people just like me who are 4 years into it and are just hoping to make it to year 7. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that.
Well, and I really have to try to be careful because I want people to start farming like this. I want there to be more and more and more people doing what you're doing, what we've done. But sadly, there are people who have decided that they can make their living farming the farmer more easily than they can farming the land. And they have courses you can take and magazine articles. You can subscribe to their newsletter and paying them money. And I think that's fine. Everybody needs to learn. I wish there'd been more things like that when I was coming along trying to learn. I had to figure it out myself because there was nobody to teach way back then. But so often I think that the old saying, those that can do and those that can't teach. And I worry about. We'll just use the word charlatan. People that find that they can make more money helping telling other farmers how to do it than they can doing it themselves. And I don't think they're all like that, but I think there's a certain amount of it, and I think that people really got to be careful what they subscribe to. We're not in the consulting business. I think we've learned a lot about it, but you're out there in the Texas Panhandle, and if I went out there, I would not know how to tell you to farm that ecosystem. If you bought a farm here, I could probably help you, but I think that people really need to be careful, and I also think that the profitability of this kind of farming has been hyped up beyond the true expectation. Our farm here makes a little money consistently. I've had years I lost money, but now we make money pretty consistently. When I tell my friends who are MBAs and CEOs and CPAs and business people, money people, how much assets we've got here, how much equity we've got, and what we make, they think I'm crazy for continuing to do it. And I don't think I am. They are measuring our financial success or lack of success on the same sort of formulas you use in a business for monthly profitability, quarterly profitability, annual profitability. And I get it. But this business is a generational business. And me and my family, my 30-something-year-old children and in-laws, discuss what we're going to do here for our 6 and 8 and 10-year-old grandchildren. And it's not we make investments that we know full well are not good investments for the month or the year or the quarter or the year, but we think it's a good investment generationally. We think that when my grandchildren are running the farm, they'll be glad we did that. And there's a lot of it. And you don't have that in a business, in a normal Fortune 500 company or almost any non-agricultural company. You don't have that kind of, I'm not saying none, but it's not nearly as much of that. And it's just not the modern way of running a business.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason that my wife and I wanted to start this. Was we were pregnant with our first son, and we were having conversations about the values we wanted to instill in him, and kind of the life we wanted to see him live as a child, and how we wanted to raise him. And the whole idea behind what we're doing is to be able to make it a generational thing that doesn't just benefit us. I kind of don't have high hopes that it's going to benefit us a tremendous amount anyway. I think most of the productivity that we will see, or that will be seen on this farm anyway, will be seen in my kids' lifetime, I hope.
That's very mature of you, and it's very real world of you. The things that you do, the improvements that are made on a farm are very, very long term.
This episode of Everybody Wants to Be a Farmer is sponsored 100% by J.C. Acre, offering prairie-raised eggs and pork to our friends in the Amarillo and Canyon area of the Texas Panhandle. Be on the lookout for brand new chicken meat coming in December. You can find us online at jcacre.co or follow us on Instagram at jc_acre. Back to you, Josh.
They started a farm and they got some chickens and eggs.
I mentioned earlier that I just imagine the amount of first generation farmers that you have seen, the number of idealistic people that you've seen kind of come and go. What have you noticed to be some pitfalls that you've seen for young farmers like me that have either scared them off or caused them to kind of lose their hope in this thing?
Well, my family fusses at me because they say when we have visitors here, it sounds like I'm trying to scare them off. And I'm not. I'm not trying to scare them off. I'm delighted they have the interest. But I am trying to be sure they understand the potential pitfalls and difficulties that will come with it. To answer your question, one thing I see almost invariably is these people that come here for training. We've got a nonprofit called CFAR, Center for Agricultural Resilience. We put on training sessions here. We've got one going on today. And these people come here and they're great people. They like you. They're not farmers. But they want to do this. And I have to be careful to not. I'm not trying to dissuade them, but I am trying to show them the real world. And what I say to them is I lift up the difficulties. They come here with the excitement of raising animals, baby animals being born on their farm or ranch and raising them up. And that's just exciting to them. And, I'm the guy that tries to bring reality into it. And, it's true. The operational part on the farm is fun. Mm-hmm. That's fun. Most of us that do it enjoy it. It's fun. But that's one leg on the stool. There's making it marketable and there's actually selling it. You raise cows and hogs and sheep and goats. People don't eat cows and hogs and sheep and goats. They eat beef and pork and lamb. And then once you produce that, you got to sell it. You got to monetize it. So there's three legs on the stool, and they're focused on one of them, and that's the one that's fun, and that's fine. But you got to handle those other two as well. You got to have a plan. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to get them to build a processing plant. I'm trying to be sure they understand that they're gonna have to get that animal processed. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to have to monetize the meat. So and there's no way you can tell somebody that's excited about starting a farm that without kind of busting their bubble a little bit.
Your podcast with Joe Rogan didn't come out until my bubble had already been busted by myself. And I appreciate that. We follow a farm pretty closely. Yeah, they're in Tulsa, and the farmer there, his name's Nate, and he kind of takes the same approach. He spent a long time where a lot of his communication stuff was talking about how you can be a farmer. We want you to be a farmer, but you got to understand you're not going to make money for the first 5 years. You're probably going to lose money for the first 5 years while you're figuring all this stuff out. What do you have to say about the importance of consumer participation in whether you don't get to be a regenerative farmer, you're a banker or whatever? How do people get to participate in regenerative agriculture if they are not agrarian people?
Well, I'll take the farmer side of it first. The way I raise cattle today costs more than the way I did when I was an industrial cattle guy. I gave up the tools like subtherapeutic antibiotics and the whole gambit, ionophores, hormone implants. I gave up all those things, and it caused me to spend more producing beef. It cost more per pound to raise it. And I did it because I wanted to, but I couldn't do that if I didn't have consumers that supported me by buying my product. And they're not going to buy my product to support me because they like me or feel sorry for me or whatever. They're going to do it because they perceive that they're doing the right thing for their health or the environment or the rural economy or whatever's important to them. So a hard part is telling that story so that people understand. This costs more. Make no mistake, it costs more. Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't, because it does. Here's why I think you ought to do it if you care about animal welfare or rural America or the ecosystem, the environment, whatnot. So that's the communication that's got to take place. And I'll tell you what, the public has come a long way. When I first started doing it in the late 90s, early 2000s, people just didn't know. And today, some people still don't know, but there's a lot of people that a lot more people have figured it out and embrace the reality, and I'm grateful for that. So it'll open the door for more folks like you to get in this business. I got in this business because I wanted to. I didn't do it for the consumer. I didn't. That probably didn't sound right, but I didn't. I did it because I wanted to. But I realized how dependent I am upon the consumer. And I'm glad that increasing numbers of them perceive that what I produce, if they buy it, there'll be a benefit for them.
That's good. Have you seen it? Have you seen any, and y'all are so well established, you might not, but have you seen any added difficulty in kind of, you call it greenwashing, but in just the utilization of the buzz of terms that have been meaningful in the regenerative farming world that have been kind of overtaken by industrial ag and grocery store sales?
Absolutely. Make no mistake. Every term that farmers have ever come up with to describe what they do was taken over by the industry. And then organic, sustainable, grass-fed, on and on, whatever term we come up with, the farmers, it will be pirated, and you got to come up with something else. So the consumer. The consumer's got to know who he's buying his product from. Be good if he could go to the farm. With social media, you don't have to. I mean, there's just you can learn too much about us or you through. I don't fool with it much, but Instagram and Facebook and all these things that my daughters do. People folks say, ask me about something that's happened here. And I want to say, how do you know about that? And it's because they put it on out there on social media, and it's fine. It just allows people to know more about us. I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, that's good. This is going to be a question we're going to ask on every episode, and you might, I don't know if you have a good answer for it or not, but who else should Josh Davis and Everybody Wants to Be a Farmer be talking to? Who would you recommend?
Well, I think there are a lot of good farmers out there. Greg Gunthorpe in Indiana. You caught me by surprise. I hadn't been thinking about it, but we talked about Gabe Brown earlier. I think he's fantastic. His son Paul is actually the one doing the farming these days. There are a lot of them across the country, and I'll think about it. But you see the names. I mean, there's no surprises.
Gabe Brown's high on the list. If I have someone who's curious about, we're out of time, but if I have someone who's curious about regenerative agriculture and I want to explain it to them as best as I can, I tell them to read Dirt to Soil and A Bold Return to Giving a Damn. I think those are the two best descriptions of what this is supposed to look like that I know of.
Well, I'm honored that you put my book in with Gabe's. I would. He's my best friend.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, and I'm happy to know that. Well, Will, thank you. I don't have enough words to tell you how grateful I am for your time.
Thank you for including me. I enjoyed it, and I hope you come back to see me.
Yes, sir, I will. We'll talk soon.
Take me back where I can see miles of dirt in front of me. Summer's hot and winter's mean. There ain't nothing in between.
Hey, thanks for listening today. If you liked it, or if you think you might like it in the future, please click the subscribe button, click the like button, share it with your friends, share it with your mom. We'd love to have you along for the journey. We'll have a lot of guests in the future. We'll have a lot of fun stories to tell, and we look forward to you being along for the ride. Our intro and outro music is Flatlands by Ryan Colwell. If you haven't heard of him, now you have. Go check him out. We'll see you next time.
It's a great big sky.